Good afternoon. I am here to discuss the Lima Momenti case that you are all aware was in court this morning for arraignment. As you're aware, Mr. Momenti's arraignment was put over until April 25th. His attorney is out of town at this time, and so they asked that we continue the court date until she returns. The judge did go ahead and order without prejudice that Mr. Momenti be held in custody without bail. On the 25th, we will revisit that detention motion where we will argue that he should remain in custody the entire time that this case is pending. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions you have regarding procedures or anything else.
Can you talk about DA, can you talk about a motive here? We've seen some of the revelations about the moments leading up to this killing. Momenti appears to be rather enraged at the victim over his relationship with his sister. I'm wondering if you can tell me about what the motive is that you established.
At this time, that's still a part of this investigation. As you're aware, this investigation is still very much ongoing and active. What we have at this point is, and what we've been willing to release to the public is the fact that Mr. Momenti does have a sister with whom was connected to Mr. Lee, and apparently is what connects the two men. But at this time, we're not revealing any more than what's contained in our detention motion.
But in those detainer documents, it talks about them leaving together about some sort of dispute. That's all in the court documents. Can you speak to that at all?
So at this time, what we've revealed is that Mr. Momenti and Mr. Lee were both at the Millennium Tower, which is where Mr. Momenti's sister resides with her husband. The two gentlemen, late in the early morning hours, I should say, leave the Millennium Tower together. They are seen on video leaving the tower and getting into Mr. Momenti's vehicle. They then proceed to drive away, and that subsequently to that is when the stabbing takes place.
Was the kitchen knife taken from Millennium Tower?
At this time, all that we were releasing is that a kitchen knife was located near the scene of the stabbing. We're not revealing any more at this time.
But can you talk to us about the relationship between Mr. Lee and Mr. Momenti's sister, and also Mr. Momenti's sister was in court today. Does he have more than one sister, or is she the person that was listening in front of him?
So I was not in court today and was not able to observe who was present. What I will say is that it appears from witness statements that Mr. Lee is somehow a friend of this woman, and that is what the connection is between the two men.
But not necessarily like a love triangle situation where she has a relationship outside of her husband.
At this time, it's still an ongoing investigation, and that's all we're willing to reveal. Kazar Momenti.
Question: the video that I've seen shows Mr. Lee with something. It looks like a folder of papers, document, something, and it looks like he's running with those and he's stabbed. It looks like they're taken from him by Mr. Momenti. Do you speak to that? Do you think that is something taken from him?
I'm not aware of what video you have seen. The only video that I'm aware has been released to the public is the one where he collapses. So I'm not clear on what you
So you don't know anything that was taken from by Mr. Momenti?
Again, the facts as we have released are what are in the detention motion. So I just think you need to be very careful about any facts that are coming from somewhere else at this time.
Can you talk here and then today?
Mr. Momenti's family, his lawyer has suggested that this didn't involve romance in any way, it involved drugs, and that Mr. Lee was using drugs. And noticing the motion, you mentioned that he and Ms. Momenti were drinking together. Were there also drugs that being used at that?
At this time, all that's being released is what's contained in that motion. There appeared to be some discussion about whether or not she had used drugs between the two men, but at this time, that's all that we've released.
Can you speak to that text message that the detainer motion talks about, that she had texted him about the dispute that the defendant had with the victim, and also basically the detainer motion says that
he stabbed him, which was deliberate and planned, that's in the detainer motion, and left him for dead. Can you address those two issues in the detainer?
So as to whether or not there was an argument prior to the stabbing, what it appears from her text message is that there was some type of dispute between the two men, at least that Mr. Momenti was upset with Mr. Lee about something prior to them leaving her residence, and that she was attempting to check on Mr. Lee the following morning, which would have been subsequent to his actual death. At the time of the stabbing, it appears that Mr. Momenti did leave Mr. Lee there, obviously at the scene. We then, as you know, have all viewed a video of Mr. Lee attempting to call 911, attempting to find help, and not being able to be successful with that. And so, to that extent, yes, he was left to die.
No, but the issue of being deliberate because he took the kitchen knife with him, that's what the detainer motion. Explain why that's important.
It's important because it goes as to whether or not we are proceeding with the theory of first-degree murder, which requires premeditation, or second-degree murder, which is a crime of passion. At this point in time, we are still very much looking at first-degree murder. This is a person who was in his vehicle with a kitchen knife. That's not something most of us carry around at all times with us, and so that this was something that he intended to do.
Hey there. I was hoping you could maybe just clear up one small thing in the detaining motion, where on one of the pages it talks about the witness and and Bob Lee going to the Bob Lee's hotel room, and then in the next paragraph leaving to go to the victim's apartment. And I was hoping you could just clear that. What's happened? Did he have an apartment, or was that the witness's apartment, or is there a typo? What's happening?
I did review that motion, and that is a typo. They
Okay.
went to the witness's apartment.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Lee
That's what I thought.
doesn't
I
have a
appreciate
residence.
Can you tell us anything about the suspect's criminal history?
I cannot. We have not alleged any prior convictions in this complaint, and so that's as much as I can say.
A lot of motion rests on this witness. How do we
We don't normally identify who our witnesses are. One, it's a safety issue. We want to keep people safe when they're willing to speak, to the police in serious cases like this. We also have confidentiality concerns, and again, I've tried to stress this is very much an ongoing investigation, and so we still have more interviews to conduct, and we would rather not expose our witnesses to the public at this time.
And just quickly, if I could, is there any chance that Mr. Lee would have survived if the car he had stopped?
I am not aware at this time of whether or not he would have survived.
What type of cooperation are you guys getting from the suspect and from the family? Are they cooperating with you guys?
All that I'll say at this time is that he had a lawyer prior to his arrest, and so at this time, San Francisco police are continuing to conduct their investigation and do what they need to, but that's the most that I can say. You would imagine he's been advised by counsel how to proceed.
Would you characterize Mr. Lee and Mr. Momenti as having a friendship prior to this at any point, or did they just knew each other?
I cannot comment as to the nature of their connection or their relationship prior to that evening. Like I said, we are only 10 days into this investigation. There's much more to flesh out, and the police are actively investigating.
We know Mr. Lee called 911 after he was stabbed. Is there any indication that he called anyone else before he passed?
The only call that I am aware of is to 911.
Is the lawyer that he had prior to his arrest the same lawyer he has today?
That's my understanding, yes.
Did Mr. Momenti identify his assailant as Philip?
Did Mr. Lee?
Mr.
No, he did not identify who stabbed him in that phone call.
Is there any chance that Mr. Momenti was Travis mediated?
Unfortunately, we will, unless we find evidence of that through witnesses, that is something that we will not become aware of, at least in toxicology, given the time that it took to make that arrest.
How important will it be for you guys to have Mr. Momenti's sister assist in this investigation? She was also a witness. Will you get any kind of assistance there?
So I'm not going to reveal reveal details of the ongoing investigation at this time. Of course, the police are trying to speak with any relevant witnesses who have information about what went on during the evening hours leading up to Mr. Lee's stabbing. And so, you know, they're attempting to get as much information as they can.
Sorry, to return to the apartment hotel issue. Was the apartment, the witness's apartment, was that the one on 1500 Mission?
That
Like
I
where they
cannot.
had been previously?
No, it was a different apartment.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Was Mr. Momenti at Mr. Lee's hotel room when they were having that conversation about his sister? Or was that like a telephone conversation?
That was a telephone conversation between Mr. Lee and Mr. Momenti that the witness overheard. Yes. I simply, when I started, said that today, unfortunately, the arraignment did not take place. It was continued to April 25th. Mr. Momenti's attorney is not in town right now, and so they've asked for a continuance. In the meantime, the court did rule that he will be held in custody without bail until April 25th, at which time his lawyer can oppose our detention motion.
The detainer motion talks about that the actual knifing. It's tough to tell who is who in that. Does that make prosecution all the more difficult?
What I will say is we believe we can identify who is who in that video. Certainly, we would always love to have clear HD quality video that shows a crime. But that's not always the case. But we do feel in this particular situation that we have sufficient evidence to believe that Mr. Momenti committed this crime and that we have proof beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed murder.
Sorry, one final question. You know, this murder, people made an incredible amount of hay out of it when it first happened, and obviously fed into this whole doom loop, San Francisco, whatever. And I guess just what's your 30,000 foot view of what we know now and what people should be thinking about that?
Yeah, I think justifiably so. At the time that this happened, people felt unrest, right? They felt very concerned, even more scared than they already are. We are in a city that it has residents and business owners who have public safety as their top concern, who will tell you each and every day they do not feel safe. And that is something that I very much acknowledge and understand how this would contribute to those feelings. I think now that we know the facts and understand that this is somebody that Mr. Lee knew, that this was a targeted killing, that it does not, this is not indicative of the state of affairs here in San Francisco on our streets. That doesn't mean that we still don't have a lot of work to do from a public safety standpoint, but I simply don't think Mr. Lee's murder factors into that equation.
Were the two men, were they in her apartment? Mr. Lee and Mr. Momenti in the sister's apartment?
That is what we believe, yes.
You had some pretty sharp words for Elon Musk yesterday. Have you heard a response?
I have not heard any response from Mr. Musk regarding his tweet or my comments.
Has the suspect been formally charged now? You said yesterday he would be charged that day.
Yes, so we issued actually a DA warrant. So my office has issued the warrant for his arrest, and so the charges were filed immediately through that warrant. At which location? So what I've offered thus far is that the two men left an apartment in Millennium Tower prior to the stabbing together. They got into Mr. Momenti's vehicle. Mr. Momenti was driving. They ended up in the area of the stabbing, and that is where they exited the vehicle, and approximately 5 minutes later is when the stabbing took place. That is still very much under investigation.
What was the question?
Was the murder weapon taken from the apartment?
Is there anything that directly links the suspect to the murder weapon, either forensically or access-wise? Are you confident of that?
So far at this time, all we are releasing to the public is what's in that detention motion. More will come out as this investigation continues and this case goes to court, particularly for its preliminary hearing.
Guys, we just have time for a few more questions. If anyone hasn't had a chance to ask a question, I'd like to start there. Or we can wrap it now so you guys can go file your stories. I think St. John has one more. So search warrants, police searched Momenti's apartment, and then there were 2 other places that got searched, correct? Where were those places?
Yes, 2 other search warrants were issued here in San Francisco at the Millennium Tower.
Are you looking at any other suspects who we haven't heard from or don't know about for the detention motion?
What I will say is this case is not closed. So long as the investigation is open, it can always yield additional perpetrators and accomplices.
Did you say that the defendant was consulting with an attorney prior to when he was arrested? So is that something that you guys are aware of?
My understanding is that he had retained Miss Canny prior to his arrest, yes.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
The BMW is
I am not aware of whether or not it's a conversion.
Okay, thank you guys.